Today on Marvel Movie News, Thor 4 is a-coming, and the only man to bring it is Taika Waititi. Hollywood Reporter dropped that news. We're going to dissect what that means for the MCU Phase 4, what it's going to do to other movies, what it means for that story in particular. We'll break it all down. Plus, some San Diego Comic-Con revelations have already hit us, and it's only 1 o'clock on Thursday. Let's talk Marvel on Marvel Movie News.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Marvel Movie News.
Good afternoon to you, our merry Marvelites, and welcome back to Marvel Movie News. Hey guys, I'm Zach Wilson. We got Christian Bladt over there.
Hey, look, it's me. Here I am.
And that's not Xia Anderson.
Are you sure?
I'm confident.
I'm just excited to finally be sitting next to someone pretty. That's just for Xia to hear when she watches this.
Shots fired.
Xia is down at San Diego Comic-Con today, while we're here coming to you live from the remnants of Asgard. This is the Marvel Movie News. You can follow us on Twitter at Marvel News PTN. I'm doing all of this to stall introducing who our guest is because I think it's funny. Follow our network, The Popcorn Talk, on Twitter at The Popcorn Talk. Make sure to like, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. Now that's out of the way, I will introduce our guest, Jeff DeRay. Jeff, people may have heard you on Christian's other show,
The Blackcast, at blackcast.com, BLADTCAST.com.
They may know
Does
know
he
you
pimp
from
that show as much as he pimps this show on that show?
Actually, no. I pimped this show on The Blackcast a lot more than I mentioned The Blackcast here.
Good to
They
know.
may know you from that. They may also know you from Emerson College Hockey,
Yes.
where you and I played hockey together.
Yes. If they ever watched a game during my 4 years at Emerson and saw somebody punch somebody for no reason, that might have been me.
Oh, I did see you. I remember that.
As I put myself in the way of frozen rubber like an idiot that plays goalie, because only idiots play that position.
I can
Anyway,
confirm
yeah, small world. Anyway, let's talk some Marvel stuff, you guys. We got a whole bunch of stuff to go over. San Diego Comic-Con is going on. We don't have all the stories yet, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. The big panel is happening over the weekend. The Russo Brothers panel is happening tomorrow. There's an Avengers, the video game trailer or panel dropping in 20 minutes. So we can't see that because we're live. But we are also, if you stick around to the end, going to reveal the winner of that Endgame poster that we teased last week for the poll.
I hope it's me. I hope I won.
Well, then we can save a lot on shipping. It's just
It's
in the
true.
car. No, I got a bag full of names. We're going to draw the name on the air, so stick around. Let's start out with our lead story for today. That is Thor 4 getting not confirmed because Marvel didn't confirm nothing.
Right.
But the Hollywood Reporter said that Taika Waititi has officially signed on to write and direct Thor 4. Basically saying Thor 4 is going to happen. How do you guys feel? How do you feel about this news?
Jeff is our guest. Why don't you let me go first? I'm really excited about the fact that he's going to be back because Thor 3 I thought was great. Look, I didn't love Thor 2. I think a lot of people didn't, but I think he did a great job, and he has the take on the character that I personally enjoy. Jeff, what do you think?
So I would say I was probably about as hard as Korg when I found out. Bouncing those Taika Waititi.
To be fair, I told him not to run his jokes by me ahead of time. I wanted him to do it on the air. That's my fault. I should ask.
Oh my God.
I'm so psyched. I love Taika Waititi as a director. I've enjoyed all his independent films through the years. I'm sad that this is what I read, that part of the reason for this was that there were script issues with his live-action Akira adaptation, and so that's why he was able to take this on, and that's now indefinitely suspended or whatever. But
I had heard it was casting issues. Oh. It's rumors at this point.
Whatever it is, though, the Akira movie's not happening anytime soon, which is disappointing.
Yes,
Yeah.
Warner Brothers officially shelving Akira. They said that they're still interested in making it, but I think from what I heard, their overall thoughts on it were, we don't want to make it without Taika Waititi. That was, I think, to them, it wasn't worth doing. It was only worth doing when they had somebody who's going to bring a unique take or voice to it.
Yeah. And
Taika Waititi is going to do that. He's not just going to do a shot-for-shot remake of the anime movie or do a poor retread of what you can just read in the manga. He was going to do Taika Waititi's Akira.
Yeah, I could imagine, just because, with his Maori heritage, if he used something like that as part of the storyline, especially like the warrior spirit and everything that I know from the original Akira anime, I think that'd be fascinating. I'm imagining the possibilities, and I don't know though, because I think Thor 4, because there's so many possibilities, and because I love Thor Ragnarok so much, it was so like, good. I saw that with Christian, and it was, for anybody who's as familiar with the movie as I am, it's probably about less than 2 minutes into the movie when the skeleton's jaw drops that he's talking to. I was like, oh, this is the best movie I've ever seen. It's true. I'm never going to stop loving this movie. I pretty much said that to Christian in the theater. I was like, oh, I'm down.
Thor Ragnarok revitalized that character. It made the character fun. It's not the Thor that you read in the comics, and that's some people I know did kind of butted up against that because it wasn't what they were used to. That was more like what you got in Thor 1, Thor 2, but with Chris Hemsworth, it was the best version that you could get out of him because it's him having fun, and Taika Waititi just embracing that and making a spectacle. And so that's what we have to look forward to in Thor 4. The question at this point, though, is, so Thor, at the end of Endgame, where we left him, is traveling with the Guardians of the Galaxy into space. We don't know, one of the things we don't know is when Thor 4 is going to fall in the order. We'll probably know that before the end of the weekend, and literally by this time next week, we'll just have that answer. But we're here, so let's speculate let's speculate wildly. Do you guys think that this will end up happening before Guardians 3?
I would guess it'd go after, because they already had a lot of the machinations for Guardians 3. Like, they were already going to film it before that whole thing with James Gunn went down. So I'd imagine, since this is seemingly a much newer project, a much newer idea that they're developing, I would assume they'd stick with that. But I don't think that it really matters. I almost think you could with the Thor 4, because of what we have with Asgard, unless they specifically address that in Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't know that the timeline, I guess, unless something else happens with Thor in Guardians, the timeline doesn't matter as much, because it's like, I want to know what happens with Valkyrie and the rest of the Asgardians. Yes. Are they just going to be able to live in Norway indefinitely? Is our other cosmic entities going to start battling them, because now the 9 realms, or 9 realms?
There's 9 realms.
Yeah, 9 realms are unguarded from Asgard.
Well, there'd be 8 now, because Asgard.
Pluto's not a realm. Oh, right, Asgard. Gotcha.
Well, and that's another question for Asgard. We know that Surtur kind of stabbed it and blew it up, but is that entire rock just disappeared?
Is there nothing there?
Yeah. Where did Surtur go? Did he just fall?
Nope. Those foundations are gone.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But I agree with Jeff in that I think that Guardians 3 would happen before this. I think I know James Gunn's doing Suicide Squad 2, but I do think that they are further along than they are with this. But who knows? I think it makes more sense if his next story is with the Guardians because of the last time we saw him, and if it does come before Guardians, then I think we should expect to see them at least in part of Thor 4. That is not as easy to say as it should be.
Yeah,
Thor 4.
I mean, this is the interesting. James Gunn, who is an executive producer on Endgame, so theoretically he would have known what was going to happen in that movie. He was probably one of the few people who was in on story development and all that. So he may have known when he wrote Guardians 3 that Thor was going to be there. But Guardians 3 won't start production until the Suicide Squad has wrapped. James Gunn is doing that movie, and then he is doing Guardians 3. So it may be that even though the script is already done, supposedly, for Guardians 3, they have to push it back enough that Thor 4 could wind up before it.
It's true.
It's possible. We don't know.
It's
We
definitely
don't, We also
possible.
don't know. This is just news breaking. It's possible that Taika Waititi has been under contract and working on this for a while. Maybe as a writer, while he was also doing the Akira stuff. And then they were like, all right, now we're ready to go on this. You're on board to direct, right?
It's still possible because I think Taika seems to do that. Guy seems to never stop working, but just throwing another hat in the ring. He also has a show that he's directing and partly producing, the What We Do in the Shadows show on FX.
Not to mention directing 1 or 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yep, at least one. I know that's on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think they've just been one, but
I mean, I think he's just real bored. Got nothing to do.
A couple of comments in the chat. One was, I believe it was from Gamer Girl. Sorry, I scrolled past it. She was hoping that we see the Marvel version of the Enchantress in this movie because that is a well-established Thor character whom we have not seen yet. So I think that's worth mentioning because it would be great to see her at some point.
Didn't you feel, though, that Hela seemed like she had kind of some of those Enchantress things? Like she had the little specks of green. I thought that was supposed to be kind of their nod to the Enchantress, especially since she's the one who gives Scourge the axe and everything else.
Right. I mean, I think you could see it that way, but they didn't do an actual full version of that. But I don't know. I'd like to see that sort of classic version of her. I don't know. What do you think about that, Zach?
I was looking for news because somebody said something in the chat that I was trying to verify.
Okay. What do you think about having the actual Enchantress in Thor 4?
Enchantress.
A lot of words hard to say this
could
week.
be a good way to go. She's a classic Thor villain. I would worry that she kind of steers us close to Loki.
It's true.
Depending on your take on her. So I guess while we're saying what do we want to see in Thor 4, I really want to see Beta Ray Bill.
I agree.
That's my big want.
But is he able to be around because we already saw his visage on Sakaar?
Sure, that doesn't mean that he's dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
He could have been on Sakaar and gotten away. That also doesn't necessarily mean that it's Beta Ray Bill. It could have just been another one of his people. Even though it's definitely Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
I just want an excuse to see Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
I think
Plus, imagine now he's got a third guy picking up his hammer, like how pissed Thor
He's
would
like,
be.
oh, what? Anybody can pick up my hammer
Like,
now?
oh, okay, Dad. Thanks a lot.
So now Horseface here can pick up my hammer too. Okay,
Look,
great.
He's a horse-faced Norse and horse-faced Norse boy. I want to see. I think that there's an interesting story there with Mjolnir's destroyed, but we also don't know what happened to the remnants of Mjolnir.
Oh, yeah.
I assume Thor looked into that at some point over the 5 years.
Well, and also Itri's back running Nidavellir, so he could just make another one if he gets his hands free.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Thor's probably happy with Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
At this point, in terms of he's not going to go searching for.
But isn't Stormbreaker I feel like whatever happens in Thor 4, you can almost guarantee the same way that Taika took away Mjolnir in the beginning of Thor 3, Stormbreaker's going away. Because it's way too powerful of a weapon. It was created to be an ultimate, end game weapon. So you're just going to bring that into the fight right away and just be like, oh, I killed all the bad guys. Bye.
I guess unless you have somebody like Enchantress, whose power is not about force.
Right.
And granted, Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet was not about force necessarily either, but it was still a fight. And if Enchantress is more doing the behind the scenes manipulation, that plays that you can't defeat manipulation with an axe.
I do actually, now that you say that, I do see how Enchantress could be a perfect one because you could play more on his real loss of Loki. He's mourned Loki a bunch of times, but it's always proven to be pointless because Loki was still alive. And if Loki's supposed to really, really be gone, that might actually be a fascinating. So his death opens the door for the Enchantress. She comes in, and then she's using a lot of the same manipulations or even the same astral projection-y thing that he did, and makes Thor think that Loki is once again alive.
Oh my god! That is one thing I will say. I don't need Tom Hiddleston back.
I don't need him, but I feel like you'd have to play off of that in some way.
I do think you just mapped out a way where logically we can accept it and not get too upset about him, not being dead. But I agree, we don't need him in this movie.
It's like how we got Steve Rogers in Thor 2, technically. I like basically. I mean, I know we're getting the Loki series, so I guess we could bring that Loki, whichever, likely the 2012 version that bounced out, is what we're going to get in the series. So maybe the series, they did promise that the Disney Plus series are going to play into the movies more directly.
Yeah, well, you have basically a bunch of versions of Loki that escaped, like all the different timelines they went into. They basically were like, and a version of the world where Loki gets away.
Oh God, let's not get started with Endgames. Like, did each one of them create a different parallel universe?
Oh, they definitely did. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Another question from the chat. We sort of touched on it, but wanting to put real odds on it. Zeno Hour wants to know over or under 50% that the Guardians will be in Thor 4, and that's regardless of where it falls, whether Guardians comes out before Thor or vice versa. Do you think there's a greater than 50% chance that the Guardians will be in Thor 4? I'm going to say yes.
Yeah,
mostly because I just want them to be, but...
Yeah, as of now, I would say yes, because I feel like if anything, I guess unless like the main part of Guardians 3 with Thor in it is getting him out of the group,
true.
Why would they mess up that dynamic? Like, audiences are like chomping at the bit for it right now because we loved it in Endgame and Infinity War, so... I don't know why you would get rid of that necessarily, right? Like, do what works.
Yeah. I guess, again, it depends on when the movies fall. Like, I think whatever the next one is, there has to be a cameo one way or the other.
Yes.
Either it's them dropping Thor off in the beginning of Guardians if he's not just in the movie, or it's the other way around where the Guardians are there for a bit while Thor goes and begins his cosmic soul searching.
I could also just see like a Groot or a Rocket hanging out with him because of kind of their paths and how, especially with Groot, like him actually knowing how to speak Groot, maybe that would have some connection to that, like the old other Groots or whatever.
Well, also for real world concerns and budgetary reasons, if you only have Groot and Rocket, you don't have to pay any of the actual... I mean, yes, you have to get Vin Diesel's voice and Bradley Cooper's voice, but you're not paying Chris Pratt, you're not paying Dave Bautista. So I could see some Guardians showing up. I think that that's probably the most likely scenario.
Yeah, it all depends on the order of how it falls.
Yeah.
I do kind of want to see this as another. I know they talked about the Ragnarok as like sort of like a buddy, like an office movie. I want to see this as like a true road trip, like a teen romp where you are finding yourself on the road.
They're off to find the Celestials.
Or the Eternals. That's
the Eternals.
So
well, I guess when is the Eternals movie coming out?
Probably next year.
Yeah.
So if that do you think the Eternal movies, what type of influence would that have on a Thor?
Probably not a ton, to be honest, because the Eternals are cosmic beings, but their stories tend to be central to Earth. Mm-hmm. Like the Eternals cast. At least in what I'm expecting them to do is going to be an earthbound tale.
Okay.
With cosmic beings.
All right.
If that makes sense.
But what you're saying, Zach, is you'd like sort of a road picture. So basically, like Harold and Kumar go to the Eternals or something.
I want to see Thor and Valkyrie have to journey into the stars, and at some point they meet this dude with a horse face who can pick up Stormbreaker. Yep. Even although Stormbreaker doesn't have the same spell on it, so it's not as difficult to lift. But I just wanted them to find this worthy horseman, and for whatever reason they have to keep journeying out to maybe Enchantress has put a spell on his people.
What if on your road trip buddy comedy thing, it's Beta Ray Bill and Thor straight up, and it's like Beta Ray is out Thor, like original Thoring Thor, where he's being like too much, it is for the mighty that we shall go. And Thor's just please. Like, calm down, bro.
That's exactly what I want to see. And it's just them. Yeah, it's them in a spaceship. In a too small of a spaceship for two beings of that size. Beta Bill's got the wings on his hat.
Of course he does.
He's just like overly classic. It's like, can you take off the gauntlets at least? No!
Interesting that you mentioned Valkyrie because Eon001 says, I'd honestly rather see a Valkyrie movie than another Thor movie, which I'll throw back. How about both? How about another Thor movie and a Valkyrie movie at some point? Because I would like both.
What about like a prequel Valkyries?
I think that would be cool. I can't imagine them doing that at this point. I think they'd have to do more with the character, but I would love to see that story told for sure.
Yeah, because I don't know that, at least with the Valkyrie that we have, going back further, there's not going to be an emotional arc to necessarily give us because we know where she goes.
It'd almost be like in my imagination, it'd be almost like a Rogue One-esque that, like the other Valkyrie. So you make Valkyrie a openly gay character. You have the other Valkyrie that she was like in love with that ends up getting killed by Hela, and it's basically the story of like how she was in the core and ran away and basically let her lover die. And
what some are suggesting was Broomhilda,
yeah,
Valkyrie, who died during Hela's attack. I want to see Valkyrie be at least involved, if not be a major part of the next story, because she is a great character, and I agree. I would watch a Valkyrie movie for sure.
Maybe Valkyrie as if she gets the Odin Force because she's now essentially in charge of all of them, and then she could put like a spell on something the way Odin did with Mjolnir in the first Thor.
It's interesting question. It's an interesting question as to whether the Odin Force could be transferred like that. If it does exist, like we know that Thor in the comics, at least Thor can take on the Odin Force.
Yeah, but doesn't he have to get it from the tree?
Does it have to be given, or can it be passed on to
Yggdrasil or whatever,
a non descendant? Yeah, maybe they have to go find Yggdrasil.
Maybe that's the road trip.
They road trip to find Yggdrasil,
and they bump into Hugh Jackman from The Fountain, and they're just like, "Hey, dude, what's up?"
Oh my god. We do a crossover with American Gods for no reason. All right. So, any other thoughts on Thor 4 before we move on?
Langney M. Neely makes a great point. I just want a series explaining where Sif has been. Has she shown up since Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because I think that was, that's the last time.
That was her last appearance, and I hope that she survived.
Yeah.
Like, once she would have survived, she would have either survived the snap or...
Yeah. I just assumed she had syphilis.
You worked so hard to get that in there. Like, you couldn't.
I didn't work that hard, but yeah, I was sitting here with it.
But he spelled it SIF, so it's all right, everyone.
It could be a really interesting way to, look, the love. If you were going to put in a love story here, you could bring Sif back and do that, like the former teenage love, and maybe Thor's now all about it, and she's like, no.
Yeah, I would love the idea of Thor being smitten with someone who's just like, I am not interested.
I could see if you'd have to have Thor maybe like before Guardians 3 and have him still be Fat Thor, and then have Sif be like, what happened to you?
Well, yeah,
he's still Fat Thor.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, even at the end of that,
exactly.
Like, yeah, he's got his armor on, so it's like, he's wearing like an Asgardian girdle essentially. When he puts on his armor, but he's still Fat Thor at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Bro Thor.
Bro Thor.
I hope that he struggles with his weight and he can never quite shake it. Even if he gets a little bit in shape, but he's still not quite there.
He's just like constantly drinking Slim Fasts.
We don't have a photo of it, but they did put out like the Marvel Legends toy line, like the basic the action figures. They did put out a Bro Thor.
And they call him Bro Thor and not...
I don't know if that's what the toy calls him, but that's what the filmmakers apparently referred to him as.
Because they don't want to call it like we all see it.
Lebowski Thor, you mean?
Lebowski Thor.
Thorbowski.
My thing is just like, to not call him Fat Thor, to me, does the opposite of what I thought the character was for. It's like, if you're going to pretend that fat is a dirty word, then like... It's not. It's okay to be fat. If that character was okay to be fat, so it should be okay to call him Fat Thor, right? Like the whole concept should be, hey, it's all right. you can be whoever you are and
Yeah.
still be a worthwhile, great person. Like, we can call you Fat Thor and you can still be a wonderful person, like Fat Neil from Community.
Yeah, you hear that, Grandma? What? All right, let's move on from that joke, and let's talk about a little bit about Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Which is coming down. Which is the announcement, at least, is coming up. We think
This time next week, we should be able to say that Shang-Chi will be out at this time.
well, because they keep adding things to it.
Yeah.
They added all rumors. They added a costume designer from Aquaman.
Okay.
Whose name I did not write down, but they did do that, or rumored that they did that. The other big rumor is that they've hired a director of photography for Shang-Chi, and it's someone whose films you will definitely recognize. His name is Bill Pope, and he shot not only all of the Matrix movies, so the original Matrix as well as Matrix 2, or Reloaded and Revolutions.
Oh, so the good one and the other two. Gotcha. Okay.
He also shot, well, there's a lot of that, because he also shot Spider-Man 2,
Which is a good
and
one.
Spider-Man 3.
Uh-oh, that's a problem.
And shot Scott Pilgrim.
Which I liked. I thought was great.
Great movie.
The like photography in Spider-Man 3 wasn't the issue.
No, you're right.
No, it's not.
You're absolutely right. He did not ruin that movie.
Nor was it in Matrix Reloaded and Revolution.
Visually, they looked great.
Which I will say are somewhat underrated. They don't live up to the original, but they get a little bit too much malign.
Yeah.
But all great looking, big budget, like blockbusters. So I think we can look forward to a Shang-Chi that has a similar, like a nice like aesthetic.
Is the only rumor I remember looking at that I was excited about was like Donnie Yen playing like Shang-Chi's father.
So there's a lot of different rumors. I had heard him for Shang-Chi, but there's a conflicting rumor with that this week.
It was like, I thought it was the kid from Power
Wait, am I
Rangers.
confused? Oh, wait, I'm confusing people.
The like Black Ranger from the most recent Power Ranger movie.
Yeah.
is
Oh,
gonna be
no.
Shang-Chi.
You're right. It was Donnie Yen rumored to be his father, which is also rumored to be the real Mandarin. Double rumor. All rumors.
Yes, lots of rumors.
But I mean, that's exciting to me because I really respect that they're going to have actual martial artists in this film.
Yes.
To make it like, I think that was exactly the kind of problems not a different offset of Marvel was running into with their Netflix series, where it's like you hire this
You can
guy.
say Iron
you
Fist.
can say
Iron
Finn
Fist
Jones,
sucked
it's okay.
because he didn't know how to do any karate, and it was so obvious. And so hiring somebody who is like a true master, who has been like excellent in every film and is like a real life ninja, makes me really excited for all the possibilities of a kung fu movie.
Yes, I agree. And the other part of the other Shang-Chi rumor this week is that Marvel is dead set on casting somebody under 25. And this was like reported, but I feel like, do we need to say this? And committed to it being somebody of Chinese heritage.
I think at this point, and
Is it
other
specifically
story-
Chinese heritage though?
That's what this is saying, is that they're not just like, oh, any like Asian person. They're not going to cast a Japanese man in the role.
Right.
They want it to be a Chinese a man of Chinese
I think it's good to get in front of that.
or a woman, as we've talked about before.
Right. But I think it's good to get
And I
in
got
front
a
of
lot
that
of
at
hate
this
for it.
point. To just say that, like, yes, we're gonna hire a Chinese actor or actress, but I think you should just say it right now. You know, and get it out there as like, yeah, that's what we're looking at, and you know, we're just being true to the character. So
I'm almost. I know that I don't know a ton of. Or I don't know who currently would be like a high profile like Chinese actor that's like doing a lot of martial arts films, but I feel like there's more Korean actors that are like high profile karate film people.
Maybe, but I know that look, Disney has a big presence in China, and I would bank on I don't know names, but I would bank on it somebody who is a huge star in Chinese cinema that will make the leap over to Disney here. So American audiences may not be familiar with them, but I'll bet you it would be somebody who has more of a worldwide renown.
That's smart.
that would make the most sense for sure.
Moving forward, this is more of just like a fun thing that's like happening as part of San Diego and beyond. The Russo brothers announced that they are going to do what Marvel has called the "We Love You 3000 tour," and we have the photo of their Thor logo. So basically, they're starting it with an appearance in San Diego with their panel. There's also going to be stuff like, so they're going to tour across the country. There are events everywhere from like Chicago to Miami to Torrance, California.
I think it's a huge mistake that they don't have Andre 3000 headlining this tour.
They should have asked.
Most
They
of
definitely
these
should have
events at this point are details to be announced soon. So
If he's at this, then I will start following them like a Grateful Dead junkie.
asked. What if they get Big Boy instead?
Not
Okay,
good
just
enough.
wanted to make sure that we were on the up and up.
keep your eye on Twitter and all that, on the Russo Brothers Twitter, for more announcements about it, because they're going to be they're doing events at like specific Best Buys.
Yeah.
They're literally going to be photo booths. They're giving out ice cream at San Diego, and I think they're doing a lot of this in line with the Blu-ray release. There's
They
going to
should be
like,
giving out tacos.
Wait,
Like
why?
the Hulk.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
I actually didn't get it, but yeah,
There's
that
even
makes
going
sense.
to be a Marvel night at what is it? AT&T ballpark
In San Francisco, yeah.
They're having a Marvel night where I don't know how many people get prints, but there's special prints that you can get for Endgame. But yeah, that's the fun thing there.
Nice.
Speaking of the Russos,
Hey.
they have a panel tomorrow at 11 a.m. down at San Diego Comic-Con, and everyone wants to know what it is. So here we talked a little bit about it last week, where they had just this slide thing, and they started putting out more and more things. And I have a crazy conspiracy theory I want to drop on you guys that this made me think of. So what they dropped was, it was like basically they've done like a series of just like yellow text on black backgrounds with audio from things they've worked on. First it was a panel from last year, then it was a clip from Community, which is where my brain went crazy. Then it was a clip from Arrested Development, which is where everyone's expectations were like, oh, maybe not. And then today they put up one that had the sound from the teaser trailer for Endgame. So likely a lot of these profiles, these like spotlight panels, are just career retrospectives and Q&As and stuff like that. That might be what it is. When they put up the Community thing, a lot of people were like, is this the Community movie? Because we've got 6 seasons. We need 6 seasons in a movie, or it's never complete. Because the Russos were involved in... They were major producers on
but
Community.
you'd think Dan Harmon would be the one announcing that.
Well, it's how much more of a spotlight could you want than Hall H at San Diego? And who says Dan Harmon's not going to
I
walk
was going
out?
to say, he could certainly
That's
have
true.
been there.
He might be there
did-
for Rick and Morty season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they did Community panel at Comic-Con. I don't know what year it was, but a friend of mine was a writer, and I remember them being there. So, Dan Harmon could...
I think I was there. I think I was at that panel.
Dan Harmon could make his way down there. So, but I don't think it might not be that. Let's put it that way. Maybe
I would love to see like the cast, or like the characters of Arrested Development and the characters of Community like reacting to the MCU like as though they were in it, just like, what is going on here?
Well, it's funny you should say that. So I started thinking, when he posted the Community thing, when they posted the Community thing, I started thinking, we've gotten a lot of Community like cameos in these movies. We had 2 in Endgame, we had 1 in Civil War, we had 1 in Winter Soldier. And those are just like the major characters. There's a lot of little character actors that they threw in there. But what if the entire MCU is all in Abed's mind?
Yes.
I have evidence. Stay with me. So we start out like I at the very minimum, all of these castings are definitely from Abed's perspective. Stay with me. So the first one, we see Danny Pudi in Winter Soldier, where if this is Abed, he's playing just a background SHIELD agent who is just like, he's very much just like, he's not as like awkward as Abed, but he's very much just like the same kind of guy who's just like, okay, yeah, go after you. But he's a good guy. He's not a Hydra agent.
Right.
Abed would 100% cast himself as a background SHIELD agent.
Oh yeah, in Cougar Town.
Yeah, but also being a SHIELD agent would give him access to all the information of the MCU, so he would have known all of these stories. He would get all of this stuff. Then, if we move forward, if we take a look at Civil War, you can't see it on that TV, but it's the Dean in Civil War who's playing a dean. He's literally playing a dean at MIT, and
it's true.
I hope that is Dean Pelton running MIT. Hello, MIT!
He even has an insane invention that the dean would make. He pitches Tony Stark a self-microwaving hot dog.
Yep.
And tries to get student money for himself. Like, that's the dean.
If only he was dressed as a Dalmatian person, it would be complete.
Now, these two I don't have photos for in the booth, Jeff. But because it's Endgame and there's no high-res stills from this yet. But who's in Endgame? You have Chang, who is playing a security guard, a role that he had on Community.
Correct.
He was a crazed security guard who, like, follows Scott Lang out for no reason and is just, like being super suspicious. Super Chang move.
Yep.
Then you have Shirley, Yvette Nicole Brown, back in the 60s, playing, again, a character very similar to Shirley, who is not a nerd, and even though she's supposedly very good at faces, does not recognize Captain America, who has been in tons of things, and she has definitely seen pictures of, because she works on a base where the slogan is birthplace of Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say most people in 1970 maybe don't, but yeah, she should definitely know who
Especially
he
if
is.
she's like, I'm good with faces.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But in this version of my headcanon here, where Abed's casting all these people, and Shirley's just like, why am I the only one in the 60s? Like, oh, well, you're old, so the timeline matches up.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're not going to live to be old.
I feel like Joel McHale has been in an MCU movie.
He has not.
He hasn't?
But
He
he's
seems
due.
like
He belongs in
He's
one.
He
such
has
an
not.
obvious government official or S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Just
But
like, hey.
Abed's like, I didn't think that you would have time or want to be included in this.
Or we just see him at the very end like, God, you don't include me, Abed, in your whole MCU?
But it goes even further.
It does.
Because there's other ones. And these ones are not the Russo brothers movies, so I had to stretch it a little bit. But when you get to Donald Glover as Aaron Davis, at first, it seems like this was because Troy left. Because Troy left Community, and Abed's still mad about it. And maybe it is a little bit. But Donald Glover gets to be the uncle of a Spider-Man, and he gets to help out a different Spider-Man. What else could Troy ask for? So Troy, I think, accepts this one.
Plus, to your Community connection, in Community Season 2, it starts off with Donald Glover in a Spider-Man outfit because that's when it was Donald for Spider-Man campaign.
Yep. Which that clip can be seen in Into the Spider-Verse if you look real closely in Aaron Davis's apartment. It's all coming full circle here. Plus, Troy got all bad boy when he left and moved to Atlanta, so this
That's
fits
true.
anyway.
That makes sense.
This next one though is my favorite because it's so absurd. And it's such a minor character. So Abed is accused of not having enough female people in his version of the MCU. So he puts not Annie, his ex-girlfriend Rachel into the role of Captain Marvel because his ex-girlfriend Rachel was played by Brie Larson.
Perfect.
He would put her not in a cameo, but in a starring role because she was that important to him that she deserves the spotlight.
So when
Mic drop.
Allison Brie's going to have to be some kind of like motherly eternal or something. That'll fit with the Danny Pudi verse.
Or it's just like you're too distracting to have a cameo because like you couldn't put her in like a small role.
A monkey just runs through called Annie's boobs.
Called AB. It's more subtle.
And I think you don't want to try and put anyone on set with Chevy Chase, so we'll just leave him out. We don't want to subject anyone.
They drove down Chevy Chase Boulevard. That was good enough.
You know what? That is
Chat,
good enough.
am I nuts?
Well, people were really into it, and as we were going along, they were mentioning ones that you went on to mention. They're like, "Don't forget about Donald Glover." So I think people are on board for sure.
And there's a lot of like other like very small like roles in Community that did pop up here and there. But like these are the ones that like one I had time to do.
I'm sorry, but Gamer Girl says, "Okay, is Zach done with his stupid theory?"
All right, I do need to be done with it because there's other stuff going on. But I wanted to share that with you guys because I was having too much fun with it.
And
like
guys,
that.
it's a slow news week. There's going to be a ton next week. This was a perfect week for this.
Oh yeah. But also, I partially bring this up because part of me thinks that there might be a like little scene when the Russo brothers do their panel, which has like Danny Pudi as Abed explaining this,
Which would be great.
But can't you just imagine Job like putting on, from Arrested Development, putting on a Hydra outfit, and then Captain America comes and is beating them all up, and he just looks and he's like, "I've made a huge mistake."
Yes, I could. Okay. Anyway, so some other stuff coming out of Comic-Con. So some smaller stuff. Dark Phoenix has its announcement for digital and Blu-ray, which is going to be September 3rd for digital.
Correct.
Monsters for doing it like this, but also geniuses. And then Blu-ray and DVD September 17th. They might, if I wasn't traveling the week that Endgame comes out on digital, they might have sold me 2 copies. But I'm like already going to be super busy because I have to leave town for work. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I'll just wait 2 weeks, you monsters. But anyway, so Christian, you got a good look at this announcement.
And what we know in terms of special features, there'll be a commentary by Simon Kinberg and the producer Hutch Parker. 5 deleted scenes that we don't know what they are. So those I feel like they'll reveal a little closer. There is a making of documentary and then a very specific breakdown of the Fifth Avenue fight sequence, which I think it took them, half an hour to cross the street. It was something that we talked about. A beast-centric featurette dubbed How to Fly Your Jet into Space, which you can actually see a little snippet of if you follow at X-Men Movies on Twitter. And there's also a very cool Walmart exclusive collector's edition that has a 6-panel poster drawn by some comic book artists. So if you want to get that, you have to buy it at Walmart, but otherwise you'll get all these same features however you get the film.
Cool. Very, very cool.
It's sad when the marketing department seems better than the actual filmmakers.
So yeah, look, I did like the movie. I thought it was flawed, but you look at it and you're just like, oh, it looks beautiful. You know? Well, why don't you go ahead and put Days of Future Past in the beautiful case, and then you'll feel better about it.
Yep.
Oh, we're not going to get down. We don't have time to get down that rabbit hole.
That's true.
But we do have time for a little bit of Marvel TV time.
Marvel movie news. We're talking TV time.
We all go along with that.
That's
song.
all right. I liked not telling him ahead of time just so he could watch us.
All right, I'm gonna start out with the positive news. It's not super negative, but the smaller story because there's a big one.
Yes,
it's a big one, you guys. It's close to my heart. But the one that's less close to my heart. Joe Quesada has announced that he has a new show coming to Disney Plus. And I think they had teased this, but now it's official. Marvel's Storyboard, which is going to be a docu-series where Joe Quesada is going to be talking to different artists and people just involved with creating comics and the movies, and how do you fold all that together and make these stories that we all enjoy watching. That's Marvel's Storyboard. That was a quick announcement. Not a ton on it, and frankly, I want more time to talk about the fact that it is official now, you guys. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming to a finale with season 7. A moment of silence. Oh, I
was going to explain that we're in season 6 now, so this is one more.
Yeah,
so this is next year.
That's the other thing.
Are you guys worried about getting Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I think that they're going to do an episode where you can't see anything.
I like
that.
it.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Agents in space.
That's another rabbit hole we don't have to go down because I could debate you on that for an hour. Anyway,
that episode was nominated for an Emmy.
So, in case the numbering has been confusing, we are currently in season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Next season is season 7, and that will be the finale of the show. They announced it this morning, and I honestly think it's good. It's good that they know before season 7 wraps. That means that they're going to have time to finish it, to end it the way they want to.
Spoiler alert, it's really just changing to Agents of S.W.O.R.D.
Well,
that would be amazing, by the way. I think, but look, we've talked about this, when we thought that season 7 might be the last one, or we didn't even know if we were going to get a season 6. It's had a great run. I mean, it's going to have 130 episodes. I can't say that I'm upset that a show is going to end after 7 years, especially when there were some close calls in the last few years as to whether or not it was going to get renewed. So I think knowing ahead of time is definitely the right move.
They also made the point that they become the longest running Marvel TV show of all time.
I mean, more than 3 doesn't seem that hard to make.
Yeah, but even the look, if you want to go all the way back, the original Incredible Hulk, that was 4 years. So,
but even animated, I think there isn't a show that stayed consistent.
Right.
Because there have been constant Spider-Man movies, and you could argue that X-Men universes have stayed intact, but the shows themselves have changed.
Yeah, because you've had Ultimate Spider-Man, and now there's the one that's just called Marvel Spider-Man. There's different shows, but a continuous Spider-Man Spider-Man show. Yeah, I don't know if we've had, obviously the shows that were on weekdays, the animated series, those get like 65 episodes a year. So there's a ton of episodes. But yeah, I don't think you have a lot of years. I think the animated X-Men series only had 4 seasons, and the 4th was a really short one.
Yeah.
So,
and like I see in the chat, like Ian's like, do a spin-off. They're doing a spin-off, you guys. Ghost Rider is like, yes, they like, I know there was some their press announcement was like very poorly written because it made it sound like they were going to not basically not deal. It was not going to be the same character that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it is. They're just not going to rely on anyone having seen that. They're going to make it easy enough to start fresh.
So they're going to like go back to when Robbie Reyes becomes Ghost Rider?
No, I mean, maybe they'll do a flashback of some kind to help set it up, but the idea is that you won't need to have seen any of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to jump in on that Ghost Rider. So like, I'll bet you we see some sort of his origin, but I think we're just going to not worry about origin stories and just jump into, this is Ghost Rider, he's doing some stuff.
Do you feel like a Ghost Rider story is going to stay centered on Earth, or are they going to start touching on more like the cosmic Ghost Rider stuff?
No, I think that what we're going to get, especially with Robbie Reyes, I would bet you we're going to get a border story.
Okay.
With him dealing with a lot of the horrors that are going on with that, because it's very relevant, and that's very close to that. It's very close to that character being a Latino character from Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. And look, I think if you do enough years, you could do like a cosmic Ghost Rider sort of thing. But I think that we're going to start off. It's going to be very on the ground.
It's also a Hulu show. It doesn't have the biggest budget in the world. It's going to stay pretty grounded.
True, but I do feel like they're throwing more money into some of these streaming only shows, right? Like.
More relative to streaming shows.
Yeah.
Because this isn't Disney Plus. Disney Plus is getting movie-sized budgets, but Hulu is not.
True.
That's the difference. Like, look at The Runaways, which is in season 3, so they've had their budget go up a little bit.
But I thought that was on Freeform.
No, it's on Hulu. Freeform is Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger is up there. Yes. I know it's a little confusing. It's all owned by Disney, though, you guys, so it's all technically the same. So that is the TV. That's the big TV announcement. Was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming to an end for season 7. So we'll talk. We can stick around on Sunday for Marvel TV Weekly to dig more into that, as well as what's going on the actual Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. I do want to leave a few minutes as we wrap out for Doom's Question Corner and our announcement. So real quick, we got a tweet. And I wrote the tweet down, but not the name. Hold on.
From Wes Sager.
Wes
who
Sager.
tweets us a lot. So thank you, Wes.
Son of Bob Sager.
Yes.
About San Diego Comic-Con, what's the likelihood we'll get news on Blade, Moon Knight, or Nova? Will Marvel introduce a new character that we haven't seen in the MCU before, in the MCU during San Diego Comic-Con?
I think that we would maybe get one of those. I think Moon Knight is the least likely that we're going to get. I think that we've heard enough rumblings that they are planning something with Blade that wouldn't surprise me, but I also don't know that that's part of this announcement. Like, I don't know that that's MCU proper, you know?
I think Blade is going to be a Hulu show, more than likely. It's a good way to not step too much on like the Wesley Snipes like stuff, and I still think him being involved would be cool.
Yeah. And it would also obviously operate in that same universe that works well with Ghost Rider and Hellstrom.
I think and maybe they're waiting to see how those go. And that could be a thing where we get Ghost Rider, we get Hellstrom, and then if those are doing well on the channel, they do Blade as well. Blade is a property that could do well in the theaters, and that's why I think there will be hesitation to put it on television, because the last time they said, "Well, that's a movie property, put it on TV," we got the Inhumans.
Hashtag Team Lockjaw.
But
I will not back down.
Ghost Rider was also a major film franchise, and it's now a television show. So
let's also remember Daredevil. He was a major film.
Wow.
No, it was a film property that Fox fought really hard to hold on to, that they developed a movie that they scrapped and then the rights reverted. So it was seen as something that worked on the big screen. So,
yes.
The point on that, opinions change.
Yes. I think Blade could be one. Nova, I wouldn't be shocked if it was in the final announcements for the next 5 years. We're going to be doing a lot more solo films, I think, than big
Nova could
crossovers.
easily be set up by a Guardians 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because we're going to have to deal with the fallout of the Nova Corps since Thanos destroyed them and then we never mentioned them again after that.
And it's also been, I mean, obviously, the post-credits of Guardians 2, we saw Adam Warlock, so I feel like getting something along those lines. I think, seeing Adam Warlock and Nova in Guardians 3 would both make sense.
Yeah, whichever one you want to do. I still think a Nova movie focusing on Sam Alexander is the most likely scenario for what we're going to see in the MCU. But Richard Rider popping up.
Richard Rider's the 70s Nova, right?
Yes. Sam Alexander was more recent. I think he was 6 years ago when they launched his story, but he is the son of a Nova,
right?
Whose last name is Alexander. I don't remember his first name. Who then finds his dad's helmet and becomes the young teenager Nova. And just because we have Spider-Man, that's our only other teenage hero, and I think building towards a Champions or Young Avengers type of story is in the cards, especially with people like Cassie Lang and Kate Bishop running around the MCU.
Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap out, I want to do our big announcement and pick a winner for this Endgame poster.
That's right.
So I literally have a bag. Like, this is pure chance.
Yeah.
I wrote down everyone who followed the instructions, tweeted us a page of the survey after taking it. Thank you for doing that, by the way, guys. It looks like we are going to keep Marvel TV Weekly in the feed for at least for a while.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that people like both shows.
Yeah, you guys like it, and so we're going to keep doing it to give more time to talk about, so we can spend more time talking about what we want to see in Thor 4, and then more time talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Legion, because those shows are crazy right now, especially Legion, which is breaking my brain. Like, I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Legion broke my brain. So let's see who we got here. It is gonna be,
hope you can read it,
at BC Bachman on Twitter.
I
wrote down your Twitter handles because that's all I had.
We're going to Turner Overdrive that one and get the poster shipped right out to you. And
so BC either, so we will send you a tweet to confirm where we're sending this, and we'll get you the poster.
And I know we should wrap, but there's a question in the chat. It's from someone who is a longtime watcher, but usually can't get messages to us during the show. Jesse Herrera wants to know, ever since Keanu Reeves was pitched for being in the MCU, Jesse pitches the idea, Keanu Reeves as Dr. Doom. What do you think, Zach? Because you love Dr. Doom is the only reason I'm reading this question.
No, I love Dr. Doom, and I love Keanu, and I want to see Keanu in the MCU, but that's not the right casting. One, Dr. Doom is of Romani descent.
Fair.
And that's I want them. I would love them to honor that, but also because Keanu doesn't have that calculating, constantly 10 steps ahead of you thing. That's why I like Javier Bardem. I know he's not Romani, but you see him as somebody who thought of things that you never did.
A great point to that. I think for the casting of Doom, you need someone who could be a good voice actor, because you want someone who's going to be able to convey things without being able to see their face once he has to wear that Doom mask.
Yeah, you need somebody who's got a really powerful voice behind it. And Keanu has a great voice, but he's not a specific voice, not a leader voice.
He's not a bad voice actor, but it's I saw him in Toy Story 4, and it's I even saw there was they were showing a thing of him recording his lines. It's just not.
He's Keanu.
He's fine. Yeah,
that's
Keanu,
great.
But
I love Keanu.
There's not a.
I want to see Keanu as Adam Warlock. He could play the most powerful man, the perfect man ever made. But no, not for Dr. Doom.
I don't think he'd be a good casting, but I think the same way Tom Hardy was able to affect his voice for Bane, someone who is a good enough actor without the mask, but someone who can take the mask and use that as part of it, I think is important.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, that was just a little afterthought, a little extra question, a little bonus Doom's question corner about Doom.
Yes. So you all right, we have to wrap, but you got me started in the one place I can't stop. All right. I'm
so you don't want
from things.
You don't want to hear what Eon 001 says. James Earl Jones obviously is the voice of Doom.
Well,
just the voice.
I'm the voice of Doom,
yes,
but to play Doom, no, because he's too calming. Doom is James Earl Jones is the voice of reason and wisdom.
He could be on Doom's shoulder, Doom.
I mean, they've already used him a bunch, but I actually think maybe even voice-wise, Andy Serkis would be an interesting voice.
You do need the face at some point.
But I'm just saying, I'm just thinking specifically voices.
Yeah.
At this point, now that we're talking about it.
All right. Okay. Gotta wrap up. We're out of time. Thank you, Jeff, so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.
Xia will be back next week to talk about all of the things from San Diego. So stick around for next week's episode of Marvel Movie News, where we're going to be breaking down whatever slate Marvel reveals to us. It's going to be crazy. Until then, I'm Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson. Also be sure to follow my other podcast, Ships in the Night, where we take weird cross-fandom ships and put them together. This week, you guys will be interested in this one. We did Superman and Jean Grey.
Yes, please.
In OP Powerhouse. To see how that one went down, check out Ships in the Night.
And if you've enjoyed both Jeff and myself, we do a podcast called The Blattcast, which can be found at BLADTCAST.com. Our latest episode will be up a little later today. It is our Spider-Man Far From Home special. Zia's in that as well, along with our friend Will Sterling. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. You can find Jeff on Twitter and Instagram at Jeff Duray, but he says don't follow him because it's not worth it. It's what he says. I'm just putting his words into my mouth. And, of course, Sunday night at 9 o'clock, Marvel TV Weekly. We'll be talking about a crazy episode of Legion, as always. And, of course, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And whatever news we get out of Comic-Con, we'll talk about that there. Over on AfterBuzz TV.
All right, guys, this has been Marvel Movie News. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.